So this is directions or instructions for how to bind the visual journal. The materials you'll need are 3 sheets of the parent size domestic etch and one at this size, which is half, a little less than half the size of the parent sheets. That's going to be your cover. Then you'll also need your template, or it's your hole punching template for sewing, and your spine piece. Go ahead and put those aside for now. You'll also need your thread and a needle, double stick tape, bone folder, and a ruler. And just a word about rulers. Many of the metal rulers, which are preferred for bookbinding because you're often cutting against them, have a cork back. So you can either remove the cork back, as I have with this one, or you can flip the ruler over to do the cutting. And the reason for that is that the cork adds an additional layer to the ruler, and your blade, when you cut, can kind of slip underneath the edge of the ruler. So if this is your blade that you're cutting with, it can go underneath the ruler and cut in a regular line. So if the metal surface is right against the surface of your paper, that's really ideal. Okay, so our final form is going to look like something like this. This paper has already been treated with India ink and stamps, homemade stamps, and then there's some colored pencil or crayon here, I'm not really sure. The background is a pattern that was established by a rubbing and then painted over with India ink. So we will have a pocket on either edge. Looks like this book is meant to go this way. The sewing will not be exposed on our binding once we cover it with a spine piece. We are going to do that in this demo. And then there are 3 signatures, and this has 3 signatures of 5 folios, but we're actually going to do 3 signatures of 4 folios each. So that means this is a signature or a section, and then within each section there will be 4 separate pieces of paper, and each of those pieces of paper, when folded in half, is called a folio. So we'll have 3 sections of 4 folios. So to begin, we will work with the parent sheets, the large parent sheets. And as always, you want to make sure that you are aligning the edge of the paper at the top, the side, and at the bottom. And again, Emily tends to move, and a lot of other people do too, move across the center and then press up on either way. I tend to work this way. It just works better for me. So I move from the top up when I fold. You can do whichever works best for you. So you really want to give this a really solid fold because we're going to be tearing the paper. In fact, it might be helpful for you to fold it back on itself as well. And if you have a butter knife, that can actually work pretty well for this, but if not, I'm going to show you with the bone folder. So you want to move inside that fold that you just made, And you're going to hold the bone folder at an angle like so, and you're going to pull against the paper. So you don't want to hold the bone folder up. You want to move it, sit it flat against the table, as flat as possible, while still being able to hold it. And you don't want the bone folder at a hard angle like this. You want it at a really acute angle. And you just move slowly across, and it should tear fairly readily. If you're having trouble with the bone folder, do try a regular knife, like without a serrated edge, just a soft edge. And that thinner piece of paper or thinner piece of metal might be helpful to you. So we're going to repeat the same with that half that we just made. Keep it aligned at the edges and make a nice crisp fold. Fold it back on itself once again. Then come back with the bone folder. And you can even hang hang it off the edge of a table. That may make it easier for you to hang this little piece off the edge of the table for you to keep the bone folder flat. But since you can't see that in the video, I'm going to keep mine on top. So this is the final size of our folios. I'll sit those aside and keep working on the one that we previously tore. Okay. Okay, and so now you should have 4 sheets from the one parent sheet, and go ahead and repeat that with your other 2 parent sheets. Okay, so you should now have 12 sheets of paper torn down from your 3 parent sheets. So if you don't have that, pause the video and go ahead and finish your other 2 parent sheets on your own. And I will be following along with the handout. So we have completed number 1. Number 2 is going to be divide the 12 pieces of text paper into 3 signatures or sections, each containing 4 folios. So we're going to count out 4 sections per folio, or per section, 4 folios per section, excuse me, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you'll have 3 stacks, each containing 4 sheets of paper. You're then going to jog a single stack or a single section, and you're going to fold those in half all at one time. So the reason for that, stack like this, give it another jog. That kind of evens out the wrap around the fold so that you have kind of the staircase on either edge of the paper. Okay, so match up those edges, keep things nice and square, and you're going to give it a nice hard fold with your bone folder. The reason we're folding all the folios at once that will be fitting into a section is that they nest into one another. The folios do this way. So the outside folio has the furthest way to go. And so it's going to be a little shorter at the edges, and its fold will be a little softer than the innermost folio. So repeat that with all 3 sections or stacks of paper. It's nice to fold them in half and kind of jog them so that they move around one another evenly. Okay, and then last section here. There we go. Okay, so once you have folded all 3 sections, you want to grab your cover and your ruler and a pencil, and you're going to measure 7 inches from the left side of the cover paper, marking it at both the top and the bottom edges. So I will measure here 7 inches over, and then at the bottom as well. And then you're going to measure 3/8 of an inch from the last mark on the cover paper, marking it at both the top and the bottom edges. So you're going to measure 3/8 of an inch in from that last cover, that last mark. Okay, I apologize. I was using a handout where you would need to make your own punching template. And since I've made it for you, we're going to step backwards here, and I'll share that updated handout with you in Canvas. So let's go ahead and erase that 3/8 of an inch mark that we made. We'll leave the 7-inch mark at the top and the bottom. So again, I just have a mark at the top and the bottom of my sheet that is 7 inches in from the edge of the left edge of the paper here. Okay, now your template looks like this. We are going to go ahead and fold that template in half on the center solid mark there. So I'm going to fold it backwards on itself so that I can see where that black mark is, just in case my paper is not exactly square. It's a very tiny little piece of paper. Okay, so I folded it in half on that central line, and I do need to reverse that fold because I want the line that's drawn to be in the center of this jig. So we're going to use this half of the template as our punching template for the cover. So line that up against your 7-inch mark. So I have my 7-inch mark at the top and the bottom. I'm going to sit the template just next to that. Okay, and it can be folded in half. That's just fine. And then on the opposite side of the punching jig or punching template, you're going to make a pencil mark. So that pencil mark is the width of your sewing template there. All right. So to protect your cutting mat, or if you're working on a table, to protect your table, I suggest that you grab a scrap piece of binder's board, or a folder like this will work, whatever you have available. Okay, I had to pause a second because I forgot that I also need my awl. So make sure that you have your awl as well. If you need to pause and go grab that, please do so. So again, we're going to line the sewing template up in between the two pencil lines that you've made. And underneath my cover paper, I've got this board laid down. So across, there's a straight line across in 3 places on your punching template. And then on that line, there are 3 circled intersections. So you are going to make a hole at each of the intersections. So 3 per line. So you're going to make 9 holes total. And it's only important that it goes through your punching template as well as your cover. I'm probably pressing harder than I need to here. And you can use that teasing needle instead of an awl, if that's what you have available. So 3 holes on the top line, 3 holes at the midline, and 3 holes at that bottom line. And each set of vertical holes, each set of 3, will be your sewing stations for each of the 3 sections, each of the 3 folded sections. Last one here. Okay. Once you've punched those holes, you can set your cover aside, and we will go ahead and punch the holes in our sections or signatures. So there's 3 folios, 4 folios per section. Open it up to the center, and you're going to place your template right inside and center it from top to bottom. Now, I'm keeping it in the same direction as what I punched the holes in my cover with. So just like you usually, just like we have for other books, you're going to put an H at the top for head. And you can do that on your signatures as well if you have a preference for which way the book is going to sit inside the cover. So I'll go ahead and do that now. And you can erase that afterwards if you'd like. But that's just to ensure that we sew it in the right direction. It should be symmetrical from top to bottom, but we're all human. And if things are off a little bit, it can be a little frustrating. Okay, so again, you're going to center it like so. And some people like to put a paper clip at the top to hold the template in place. So you can do that if you'd like. And you want to hold your entire section up like a V. So from the edge, it's going to look like a V. And the reason for that is you want to make sure that your fold is against the work surface so that you are poking straight down through the entire fold rather than off to the side of the fold. And this time you're punching right on that center line. So there's 3 X's on the center line, and that is where you are punching the hole in your section. Okay, so just to show you, I've poked right here, 1, 2, 3. So you're poking in the fold of the template as well as in the fold of the section. Make sure that you've moved all the way through the back side. If one of the holes didn't make it all the way through, before you put it aside, you can just go back in and make sure that your awl does move all the way through the hole for the back side. That's a little farther than I need, but I just want to be able to show you that. You do want to make sure, this is pretty heavy paper, so you do want to make sure that you have enough room for your needle to pass through the hole, because it can get a little tough to pull the needle through otherwise. Especially if you're using a teasing needle, you want to make sure it goes all the way through. Okay, so you're going to repeat that with your second and third sections. Remember to keep your head at the top for both your template and your folded sheets. Again, you could paper clip this in place if you feel like you need that extra help keeping things centered. And again, it's 3 holes, 1 at each intersection of the solid lines. And last section here, repeat the same activity. And of course, feel free to pause the video at any time if you feel like you need to move a little slower or take a break. If you need to come back to the video, you can always write down the timestamp where you've stopped and then move to that timestamp and resume the activity when you are ready. That's probably obvious, but figured it's worth mentioning. Okay, so my holes are punched all the way through, and my cover is punched as well. So we'll place the sections to the side. We're done with our punching board now. You could also use like a cereal box or a mac and cheese box, whatever kind of box you have in the recycle bin as well, to punch into. So we are going to use our marks, our marks that are the 7-inch mark. I like to use my cutting mat. If you don't have one, that's okay, but it's just a way to help me keep everything square. So I've squared my paper up against the cutting mat, and we do have cutting mats in the studio that you're welcome to use as well. Just make sure that you wipe them down with an antibacterial wipe before and after using them. So I am going to kind of stab my paper here at the 1 mark, slide my ruler in place against the bone folder, and I'm going to score a couple times. This is fairly thick paper, and we want a really nice score. And then I will move my ruler over to the next set of lines that we made on the other side of our punching template. And again, I want to make sure that that ruler is square to the side of the page so that I have a right angle here. Use my cutting mat to double check that. And again, you're going to score several times. Okay. So we're then going to fold at either of those scored lines. And as you do that, you can ensure that the head and the tail of the book are lined up as well. If this is a little bit off parallel, you can kind of check yourself and do a little shifting before you give it a solid fold. And we're going to repeat with the other scored line here. You can do that in any order. It doesn't matter which one you do first. Okay. So there we have a spine. And your, oops, I should mark the head on this one as well. Go ahead and mark head so we don't get mixed up. So your book will fit snugly in here. We are going to have different size pockets on either side here. So my apologies for that. I'll actually give you a note at the beginning of the video on a better measurement that could have been made over here from the edge. So instead of 7 inches, I will edit the video to give you a better measurement there. But no worries, we're fine. All right, so with the signature sitting inside your cover, you want to make sure that your spine piece is perpendicular to the table here. So in other words, you don't want it squashed down like this or pushed backwards like this. You want the spine to be at a right angle to your work surface, and all the signatures should be placed up tight against the spine piece. Inside here, what we're going to do is we're going to mark the foredge of your book. And you know, we have some irregular edges here, which we're going to embrace. So you want to move a little bit beyond the foredge. I would say maybe about a 1/16 of an inch at the top and the bottom. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing to the opposite side. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to flip it over. Square up the spine once again. Let that top cover go. And about a 1/16 of an inch in, I'm going to mark at the head, or 1/16 of an inch over to give it a little extra space. I'm going to mark at the head and the tail. Now again, we are going to score and fold. So it's ideally you're able to line it up on a cutting mat, but if not, just make sure that your ruler is at a right angle with your paper, or parallel to the edge here, your ruler. So rather than go by your pencil marks, go by your edge. If you want to measure with a paper ruler, just take a piece of paper and make sure that your top edge is the same as your bottom edge. You could do that. So here's a paper ruler. I'm just using my template. I'll mark that there and just bring it down here and make sure that I, am the same, which I was before I moved my ruler. Okay. So once you have it square, you're going to score several times again. And while you're at it, you might as well just go ahead and fold. This is an easy fold to make. You can verify that your score is straight by making sure that the top and the bottom are aligned with the top and the bottom edge of the sheet of paper. And we'll do the same thing on the other side here. Again, the 7 inches that I was going by was on an outdated handout. So your cover will look a little different at this point. Mine is going to work just fine though. Just don't want you to panic that your pockets look different than mine. Okay, so we now have the cover of the book, and the signatures fit right in like so. So now we're ready to sew the book.